There we go. Hey, everybody, welcome to the NT cast where we talk about the wait, no, I'm doing the fan battle casts. Nebula Theater. Normally we have casts where we like to talk about the matchups y'all submit. But this time, a lot of us were unavailable, a couple of us are feeling sick. We didn't feel like we could quite give the attention to your matchups that y'all would have wanted. So we're kind of doing like a little mini bonus stream where today we're gonna just kind of talk about the matchups that are bouncing around in our heads as of late to kind of give y'all an idea of where we're at and some of the things we consider when talking about matchups we want to talk about. So yeah, we're just gonna kind of jump right into matchups. Let me throw that up there. Oh wait, hang on. Why is it not showing? There we go. That's better. All right. So this is the first one. This one is one of mine. This is SCP-239, Siguros the Witch Child versus Franklin Richards of Marvel's Fantastic Four.
I didn't recognize the character on the left. I should have known.
Yeah, if you know me. All right. So the idea behind this one is the core premise is pretty obvious. It's just incredibly uncontrollably powerful reality warping children to the point that like all like the gods and entities of the area are like aware of them and they kind of have grander goals and not goals but they have a future and a destiny that's like a higher place in the meta of their cosmology. But
Someone said they got 3 ads from the stream. I also got 3 ads loading this on my phone.
oh,
Ow.
sorry about that. Anyway, this is I quite like this because I think Franklin Richards in the movie for Fantastic Four, I think Franklin Richards is coming up at some point in the future of the movieverse. So I think Franklin Richards just been on my mind as of late. And I kind of think this is an interesting one because they're from a very similar archetype. And I think like the game it would start as like a game of like pretend because Siguros is a big thing with Siguros is kind of like using all of the reality warping magic as if they're like a witch and they're like playing with like magic. And Franklin will frequently like do cowboy stuff where like he makes his cap guns fire like real guns or just does other kind of things with his reality warping. And I think I think it's just it would be very interesting to compare these two scaling wise. I think Franklin will be kind of something to consider for the future. And I just really like how they at a low end and a high end they would act kind of similarly. But
I guess the
yeah,
grounds are open to us.
yeah. What are y'all thoughts on just this as an initial premise?
Franklin is such a bullshit character to research. I think I'd have so much fun reading his stuff.
Yeah,
Because he is like the canonical opposite of Galactus.
yeah,
He's like the counterpart. He's like Galactus is supposed to be the end of things, right?
yeah.
And he's like so I'm assuming this other individual is a reality warper as well.
Yes. So the story of Siguros, extremely fast, is the initial article. The way she's introduced is she's like a reality warping child like one of the most powerful, but the Foundation, because she's like a little 10-year-old girl, didn't trust her. So they've actually put her in a medicinally enhanced coma. Not enhanced, induced coma, and they had to do this with like special anomalous like syringes and chemicals just so they could get it to happen. And they
Yeah.
basically plan to keep her there for her entire life.
Oh, I think I've read her.
Yeah, but eventually she is eventually rescued from this, and she has other adventures later on. There's some interesting story. You know, SCP has a couple of different interpretations. There's one interpretation where her and SCP-343, and 343 has like a million different interpretations, but one of his is like her and him used to be part of like the same creator deity, and they got split off. So you kind of compare like one you can kind of compare her relationship with 343 to Franklin's relationship with Galactus in an interesting kind of way.
Ooh. Ooh. Okay. I like Franklin with his powers is so interesting because he's done so much, right?
Yeah.
Like I remember reading, I think it was a part of a blog. He was able to possess the Phoenix.
Yeah.
So this would be insane to talk about. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah. I love the thematics, the idea of like these two kids playing pretend, but like the pretend is actually just reality, so they're just playing reality.
They're
That's
just
really
playing
entertaining.
reality. That's a really
Yeah.
fun way of putting it.
They're just playing reality because like they can make pretend. They literally make pretend things real. But, like, I guess my main question is one I have with like a lot of the reality bending matchups is like, yeah, they can do anything, but like, how do they usually use these powers? I know you say, you know, the SCP character usually does it like magic, but like, what are the typical things they will do in a fight with these powers?
A good example is one of 239's kind of creations went out of control. Like it was like this knight that she had when she was a really little kid to like protect her from anything. So like when she's a kid, she can just like make knights and other people to like fight for her. But something else she did was when she was older and she had to fight this knight. She was kind of flying around like she could like fly around and like cast blasts of magic. And when she was younger, she kind of has like just kind of more simple spells like she's like fireballs, levitation, that kind of thing.
Ah, all right.
Franklin has used a bunch of different stuff. He has really good psionic powers, so he's done like mind control and mental battles. One of my favorite things is that he woke up from a coma, overpowered like one of the Ultrons, and like he knocked him out and then went back to sleep.
Yeah. Well, speaking of psionic battles, this is something I forgot to bring up, but like in one of her really cool fights with like this eldritch entity that doesn't abide by the rules of reality. You know that one dream Morpheus
I got 3 hands.
Wait, are they again?
Yes, again.
Alright, let me see if I can basically they warp reality to the point of like it would take too long to explain. I don't remember well enough, so it doesn't matter. But she has like very esoteric reality warping as well.
Cool,
All right,
I like it.
I'll switch to the next one and try to I'll turn off the ads while y'all talk about.
No. We need to make. No, I know. I just think it's funny. Oh, okay. I wasn't expecting this to come up so soon. So this is the one Pyro matchup that I actually enjoy. So this is the Pyro from TF2 versus Firefly from DC. So Firefly, for those who don't know, is I don't know if Firefly is like particularly underrated per se, right?
Yeah.
But I think that the general kind of gist of this idea is them being pyromaniacs who are like on opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of like teams and stuff. Yeah, mass pyromaniac criminals with flamethrowers and jetpacks. It's nothing too deep, but I don't think you need anything too deep for someone like Pyro, right?
Yeah.
I really like this dynamic. So Pyro actually has a jetpack. So for those who might be worried that Pyro can't actually reach up and hit like Firefly and stuff, that they can circumvent this. Firefly, again, one of my favorite comic book villains, has a bunch of different weapons. So they have flamethrowers, which can like cover AoE and are powerful enough to destroy cars. His costume is flame resistant. His belt is like has a bunch of fuel canisters. He obviously has his jetpack to fly around. Pyro has some close range weapons, which could be really cool, like the home wrecker. So a really cool interaction I thought of was there's this weapon called the Homewrecker, which is all about destroying the Engineer's technology, right? It specifically does more damage to technology. So I imagine Firefly gets a bit cocky, and Pyro gets a really good hit in with the Homewrecker short-circuiting the jetpack and causing Firefly to just fucking, like Boba Fett in the
Oh,
original
no.
Star Wars.
Yeah,
We
like,
actually put this fight
crashes.
on Tatooine.
Yep.
Pyro,
And before the Firefly falls into the Sarlacc pit.
What happens when these guys are set on fire? Like, when they're set on fire by each other, how will they, like, react? Are they, like, immune to fire? Are they vulnerable?
they're not immune. They are resistant to it, but
Okay.
they are still harmed by it. Like, Pyro in gameplay is not set on fire as long as other classes. And what Pyro thinks everything he, she, it, we don't actually know the gender, is doing is like all with love and care, right? I'm sure you've seen Meet the Pyro.
Yeah, right.
Oh yeah,
So-
yeah.
How did
So
I forget that?
So I imagine Firefly would be represented in Pyro's head as a literal firefly that they are trying to like capture in a jar or something.
That's funny.
So they would they'd be okay with the fire, but it's not like they can't just stand in it infinitely,
True.
It will end up killing them and burning through their suits, respectively.
Okay.
I really like it.
Yeah.
I wish I had more to say, but it kind of seems like a very just straightforward, good fire versus fire matchup. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites because I think the fight dynamic is like one of the most simple for Pyro, right? And I like how specific you can get with certain of the weapon interactions, like using Pyro's Homewrecker and Jetpack. There's like other matchups that can't really use that, And Firefly is great. If any of you have played Arkham Origins, Firefly has one of the best boss fights.
Yeah. I'm not really familiar with, well, I know of TF2, but like I don't really play it too much, but like I definitely love me some fire, and these guys got fire, so I would love to see this happen.
Firefly also has a grenade launcher, which another Pyro ability is called air blasting, where if timed right, it can reflect projectiles like Demo Man's grenades. So if a grenade launcher gets shot at Pyro could just go boop, and it flies right back.
In the Pyro vision, it has to be him playing tennis with him.
Yeah. Like there is so much fun. Oh, this one, yes.
Oh right, yeah, this is one of mine.
Yeah.
Oh right, so this is the Chimera Ant Royal Guard from Hunter x Hunter versus the Disaster Curses from Jujutsu Kaisen. The basic idea is that in these worlds, there are usually, like, the hunters with aura and obviously the jujitsu sorcerers with, their cursed energy. And it takes years for these people to master these techniques and to actually be good. And death is really common. But what would happen if these worlds, they're just these people who are just born naturally talented at it, and they are like the basic gods of these power systems, and they basically just become like this worldwide threat to humanity as they know it, and you take that concept, that's how you get these characters. The Chimera ants are basically these insects that get qualities based on what they eat. So they eat hunters with mastery and aura. Their spawn are going to become masters in aura, and that's how you got the Chimera Ant Royal Guard, who are based, and then Jujutsu sorcerers. I mean, the disaster curses are basically based off of like humanity's emotions and fears of like natural disasters. So you got Harumi, who does like fear deforestation, Jogo, who does volcanoes, Dagon with tsunamis and like floods, and Mahito being the actual fear of death in humanity, who can just, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with him. You touch him, he can do idle transfiguration and basically turn you into either like a freaking monster, manipulate your body, and do all kinds of stuff. For the Chimera ants, we have Neferpitu, who has like these puppets that can puppet corpses around. She can heal people, but doesn't really come up. Her main thing is that she's strong, she's fast, and she has her aura extends to a very wide range, and it can be used to detect it. So as soon as you enter into it, she kind of knows your exact location, and you have this giant death cat after you. Then you have Shia Puff, which is the butterfly guy. He does a few things. He can separate himself into smaller bodies. He can isolate people in their in cocoons, and he also has these wings that can be used for like hypnotic patterns. He's definitely more support. And then there's Yuppie. He has a longer name, but I'm not gonna say it. And he's basically a shapeshifter. He can create a bunch of arms and smack people around. He has the wings. He has the centaur form where he has power, and he can also kind of like store pain in his body and shoot it up as like mega blasts. Just to give you a general idea of their things, but yeah, the thematics. Oh yeah, go ahead. I've been talking for a bit.
No, I mean I think the thematics are pretty easy to explain anyway.
Yeah. All I was gonna say is like thematically, it's pretty simple. So it'd be the tricky thing about this one is just imagining how they would interact. Just because, well, with the disaster curses, it can be kind of easy because, like, when you see them, there's like a fear of death, and like seeing how the Chimera ants are like the pinnacle of life, they'd obviously be, it's easy to assume that they'd be able to see them, but like, as far as I know, cursed energy can only be destroyed by like, cursed spirits can only be dispelled by cursed energy or affecting the soul, and the Chimera ants don't really have any kind of like direct soul manipulation, so I'm not sure what they would be able to do to the disaster curses at all, especially if like you get domain expansion, idle transfiguration, or anything like that, because then Mahito can basically solo any of them just by touching them.
Well, I do like Mahito versus Neferpitu as just a normal matchup.
Yeah.
I really want a good matchup for the curses. I went on a whole tangent about this privately with my partner. We talked about this matchup and we were like, man, the curses are probably the best part of JJK. And when Shibuya happens and they die, is like it all falls down. So one of the things that was instantly kind of an issue is that this is a 4v3, but the instant solution is just start Dagon in his cursed womb form. So for those who don't know, Dagon has two forms. He has the one on the thumbnail where all he can basically do is like suck people in and eat them.
Yeah.
But he realistically can get overpowered by one punch. But if something emotional or damaging happens to him, like that happened in Shibuya when he died, he turns into his bigger form. He has like tsunami control and can pop a domain. The issue that I have here is like Mahito and Shigaraki, like I feel like they dominate. Like I what really works for me again with Neferpitu versus Mahito is like Mahito isn't entirely like high scale in terms of fighting, right?
Yeah, he's like mostly hacks.
Maximum Meteor is gonna be an issue dynamically, especially because I forget the one's name, the one in the back, the divider, can't really keep up dynamically.
Behind Mahito, or I'm sorry,
No,
what are you talking about?
no, on the I know all of the curses. The one on the winged person on the.
That's Yuppie.
Yeah, he's the divider one, isn't he?
Yeah.
You could just exclude Mahito, yeah, but then that's not the curses.
Yeah. Like, I've seen variations of this matchup where it's like they see Mahito's like the ringleader, so it'd be like the three elemental ones versus them, or the give Miram over to the royal Chimera ants
Yeah.
and have like a 4v4.
I don't know.
Which yeah, like they're just kind of all different flavors of like the same kind of dynamic.
Yeah, I just have issues with it dynamically. I just think with Jogo is just like a monster in terms of like scale. I mean, even without Maximum Meteor, he does the 2 lava hands, right?
Yeah.
And pushes the buildings together. And
Do you think the Rage Cannon could like play off of that interestingly?
The Rage Cannon is able to like,
but they could still like do maybe a smaller version of the Merowim giant laser feet.
Yeah. Especially since like, Miriam just takes the DNA from Yuppie, and even though he has larger aura reserves, like he's not a master at that technique yet. So I could see him reasonably scaling to that, but like the main dynamic here is that, like the curses have a lot of instant victory comps where it's like, with their domain expansions, and then the Chimera ants don't really have any means of even like doing permanent damage because they don't have any cursed weapons or sorcery. And you could make the argument that just as they were able to get a natural affinity for like aura in an obscene amount of rate, that they might be able to do the same with cursed energy. But like they were able to develop their aura in an isolated environment where they could just kind of like F around and like experiment. In a life or death situation, especially against Mahito, where a single touch can mean your end, they're not going to have time to, even if they only have like the fundamentals of cursed energy, they're not going to have enough practice with it to effectively use it against them.
So I did have, when I was talking about this, it's like a really funny thing that would happen would be like mid in the fight when there's a moment to breathe. Mahito and Jogo would be like, "Where's Kenjaku?" And it's like Kenjaku getting fucking dominated by Meruem in like a cutaway, just getting like destroyed in a fight, and it's like, oh, right.
I would love that, actually. That would be just hilarious.
I think I'm ready to move on from this. This is
yeah. It's a fun matchup, but it makes for a better like fan over crossover than a debate. Ooh, all right.
So if you know, so a lot of people don't know this because I don't talk about this much in the Versus sphere. But How to Train Your Dragon 1 is my favorite movie of all time. I was wondering what would be a good How to Train Your Dragon matchup. And I landed on 2 matchups, and the next one's actually another one. I cheated. I put them next to each other so the conversation went fluid, was more synergistic. This one is Astrid versus Amity from Owl House. And I kind of like this idea because it can be like a person and also their big monster helper, because we can have like Stormfly fight the abominations in a really cool way. The general idea is that these are like I guess they're the girlfriends of the main character, which is kind of a boring way to phrase the connections, but that is like the most concise way to say it. But they kind of support their outcast protagonist in very similar ways, which I appreciate. So I think there'd be a lot of parallels to draw analysis wise.
Plus, you could also, describe it at first as like, them being rivals and then growing into that relationship.
Yeah.
I think the the live action actually adds an interesting contrast to this, where Astrid hates rich kids. So that's funny.
I think instantly what kind of makes this light up dynamically is I think Stormfly versus Abominations is cool.
Yeah. And I think
yeah.
And Astrid does have like a lot of cool like, maybe not a ton, but she has like a couple of neat like gadgets she gets in the what's the Defenders of the Edge show?
Oh yeah, the cartoon show.
But also she's just like really good with an axe in a way that's like really fun to watch. Like she's super acrobatic the way she fights, because she's always fighting these giant dragons, so you can have her fight some of the abominations herself. She can like try to get close to Amity. Amity's holding her off with her Gara style abomination shields and like flying around, but then Astrid can chase her as Amity flies around on her palisman. I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this is definitely one of my favorites for Amity. I like the idea of like her flying on her palisman and like having a dogfight with the dragon, and then also like doing the ground combat with like Abomination versus Stormfly, and having like a melee between them.
Yeah, I don't really have more to say.
I think this is a pretty
Oh, yeah.
simple, very fun matchup.
Yeah.
Did we want to mention the fact that Pin did a super chat for a matchup request? Do we want to talk about that if people pay?
We're
us
not
money?
talking about Ted versus Paddington. Move on from it.
All right, we
Get over it.
All right. So this is the next one is also one I submitted just to continue the How to Train Your Dragon talk. I'm cheating. But basically this.
She's cheating.
Not cheater.
Okay.
Cheater, pumpkin eater.
So I'm curious about the thoughts on this one because I think this is one that no one else talks about except for me. This is Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon versus Jake Sully from Avatar. I think what interests me about this is that when I watched the first Avatar movie fairly recently, I think Jake Sully and the world of Pandora kind of appealed to me in a similar way. I just think like the world of dragons is so like fun and beautiful, and all these dragons is so cool. And similarly, like Pandora is just like this beautiful, amazing world to like look at and see how like the different cultures work. And I think what is they appeal to me for similar reasons because they're kind of about like this one member of their group, Hiccup with the village of Burke and Jake Sully with the RDA. They initially plan to just kind of continue the group's like more bad goals of hunting down dragons and colonizing Pandora. But then as they meet and experience this group of others, the dragon and the Navi, they realize like they're just like me. They're like, oh, and then they like become very into and a part of that culture. Hiccup said to have a soul of a dragon. Jake slowly literally becomes a Navi. I think you can have a cool aerial fight with Hiccup on Toothless and Jake Sully on Taruk. I think there's a lot of cool things that really appeal to me about this specific character comparison.
The way you put it, I definitely see the appeal. A lot more thematic. I'd have to look into Avatar and watch some of like his fighting in action just to like really be like, oh yeah, I could see the fight with this going really well. Just because I'm not really familiar with it, but from the way you're sounding, it definitely sounds like a solid matchup for Hiccup and Toothless.
Yeah, this is just like one of the two ideas where I'm like, if I wanted to get How to Train Dragon on the show, what matchups would I like want to push? And these are the two that like appeal to me specifically.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. This is one I've talked a little bit about before. BB Hood from Darkstalkers versus Mustache Girl from A Hat in Time. The idea is that, on the surface, these two are simple Red Riding Hood inspired characters with blonde hair, red hoods, sweet innocent girls. And then you play their games and you find out that both are the most psychopathic and deranged members of their cast. We have BB Hood, who's the monster hunter, the embodiment of humanity's greed and bloodlust, trained in all sorts of manner, makes her own minds, has knives, rocket launchers, Uzi guns. She is in it for the profits. And then we have Mustache Girl, who is trying to take down the bad guy mafia, but is doing so to extreme lengths of, like, completely destroying them, flooding the mafia town with lava, and, like, somehow we've seen the results of this happen, but we don't know how she does it, ripping out just like blending a person and then putting them organs in a jar and them being alive as just a jar of like eyes and a lung, which is like What? I feel like there's a lot of cool stuff you could do with just like, have BB Hood go for a hit on Mustache Girl Mafia Town. And then, have it break out, fight from there. You can have BB Hood like putting on her innocent girl act, convincing some of the Mafia men to have attack Mustache Girl, only to reveal that she'd planted a few mines on their backs and used them as basic suicide bombers. Uh, uh, Mustache Girl has the timepiece, which she can use to like reverse time. She can summon out giant lasers, affect the terrain of the battle, and then also BB Hood has her dark mode, which allows her to just shoot out infinite amount of rockets from that basket of hers. Like this could just be like a very like I don't want to say lighthearted, but like definitely chaotic, fun episode where you just lean into the absurdity and violence of these two girls going at each other.
I think at a surface level and at a glance, this matchup works and makes a lot of sense. It's just kind of straight up good. I guess I'll break the ice and be the first person to be mildly negative. I guess like my big thing with this one is like it's cool and makes sense, but I don't see what would like make this matchup particularly interesting unless we wanted to cover Hat and Time specifically. It kind of just seems like I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a hater. I don't
know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to understand, but like,
I guess like
what
I don't understand like is this? I think I phrased that poorly. I think these characters are definitely cool. Actually, I don't know what I'm talking about. Never mind. Forget. Scratch that from the record. I'm just being a hater with no reason for hate. The matchup's good.
Your hating has been noted on the record.
Right.
Okay, do you want to just move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
1 second, I'm doing this wrong. There we go.
Ah, yes. Those of you in the Discord might recognize this as the matchup of the day today. This is, funny enough, with already a character that we have confirmed to bring into the show. But this is the Narrator from Stanley Parable versus Kane from the Amazing Digital Circus. Now, Kane has been everywhere. He was literally just on cast against Alistair.
Yep, and slight for those who haven't seen the Amazing Digital Circus episode 8, spoilers, just heads up.
Yeah, we will be freely talking about this. So I wanted to put this because this is my favorite matchup for Kane. I would love to do Kane for an episode one day. And we can bring characters back if we have a different, a vision for them. Just because we've used a character doesn't mean they can't be brought back. So the idea of this is that these guys are morally fluctuating, overarching kind of antagonists in a way where they like appear innocent and deathless, but actually have a lot more behind them. They have similar themes within their like humor, and they've got really like black comedy,
Yeah.
There is so many specific thematics that could be talked about here. I'm sure that Sherm can make the parallels in his head because you're a big Stanley Parable fan, Sherm.
Yeah, I think what's cool about this matchup in particularly is I think the narrator. I think what we could do is we could almost have it like there's multiple like. It's almost like this battle restarts a couple of times with how like the narrator works and how like it's like different adventures. And I kind of like the idea of like after after they fight for a little bit, we could have like narrator kind of like not like psychoanalyze, but kind of like call Kane out a little bit.
Yeah.
In his dry, sassy manner. And I think it'd be very fun to like have Kane have to deal with someone that's like actually not as vulnerable as the people he's usually talking to, and having someone actually like just actually talk to him in a way that actually I don't want to say belittles, but in a way they would talk good. I need to talk better, but I can't talk better. But these guys talk good, and that's why I want it.
I do like the idea of Stanley being used as the main kind of like fighting dynamic, you know, where like I imagine Stanley would get put into the circus, and I had the idea of actually the opening being the narrator narrating over like Pomni, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kane comes in and is like, no, stop, can't have this. This is my adventure, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, all right, and then spawns in Stanley instead.
Yeah.
And then they start to build and start, the narrator gets madder and madder, starts deleting it, and then it would end with midway through the fight, the narrator would be like, all right, and suddenly Stanley remembered that he had a nuclear bomb in his pocket and was going to blow the entire thing up. How do you feel about that, you subpar AI?
Yeah.
As Kane has to like drop Stanley into like the fucking basement.
Yeah.
And as like the narrator is slowly figuring out more about Kane, he's like, oh, you're just a piece of broken software, which would lead into the Kane crash out. As you might imagine, when a superior, like, we know that we can kind of infer actually that Kane dislikes superior AI, you know,
Mm-hmm.
with the whole he's the inferior one.
Yeah.
Went to eat the other one. So as soon as narrator comes in, like I think it'd be really cool if the narrator like makes his own adventure just to mock Kane, you know? There's a lot of self-referential and fourth wall breaking you can get in here. I just love it. It's such a fun idea. It's my favorite for both.
You're going to Minecraft. Getting Minecraft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love these two characters, and I would kill to write for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just have
Sorry.
two. Oh, yeah. I like it as a concept, like in a vacuum. I really like this dynamic between them, especially if, like, at some point during the fight, we just have we reference the broom closet, even if it's just the narrator saying, like, please, your players would have more fun in a broom closet than your adventures.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know. But in context of Nebula Theater, the big question I have is, does this do anything different from like narrator versus game to like justify revisiting?
Hard to say right now because we haven't done.
Yeah.
Without
The episode is
without showing our hand too much, the big difference between Kane and game is Kane is an entity within a program, whereas game is the program itself, which inherently makes the dynamic pretty different.
All right, I won't dive deep into it as not to show our hand, but like that would be the one thing I'd want to like look at before I like make a hard yes or no on it. But definitely love the vibes.
So this is SCP-939 versus the Mimic from Vita Carnis. Now, what appeals to me about this one? It's a pretty similar basic premise. Two very horrific, vague, scary monsters that mimic people's voices and lure their prey in. And I think it could be cool if we have a Jason versus Michael style, like we have humans that are like getting taken out, and I think it's a fun way to do it. What specifically intrigues me about this one and why I'm kind of bringing it up is I think that if we ever get a 3D team, I think this would be a pretty solid test for 3D. Like, it feels like a pretty low scale, good matchup. We could really test our writing chops out in terms of like different ways we could do the animation in. Like, this would be good, like one of our first potential 3D episodes, potentially.
Like, what's the fight like? Like, I'm not really familiar with these guys. What do they do?
Okay,
they mimic.
Yeah, so SCP-939, they're kind of like these wolf-like fleshy monsters, and they like will mimic the voices of people to lure them in, and they also spread like this amnestic gas that makes people forget that they encountered the wolves in the first place. And the mimics are from a analog horror series called Vita Carnis, which I think season 3 is coming out soon. Yeah,
I think.
and they do a similar thing where they try to like mimic the shape of humans, but more specifically, they mimic the voices of humans. And so I think it would be this thing where we see like I think we could kind of. Do y'all remember that Bat in the Sun of fight of Michael Myers versus Luxie, where it's like I think I would want this to be looking like a scene from a horror movie where like we have people getting killed off slowly, but then I think the idea is like there's gonna be multiple of each of them, and they get like slowly taken down one by one, kind of like a Deadliest Warrior situation.
Yeah, I like it. I really because it's just fun. I like the horror vibe. I want analog horror on the show anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Day will be my last breath if I don't get my analog horror on this show.
Yeah.
Also, 939 is a very, very low tier SCP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, go ahead.
I would say, so this would be a lot more cool to explore. Like get 939 like pretty conclusively loses this.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean they have such a detrimental weakness of they have spines on their back, and if they're like damaged by anything, they go into like a fucking fall. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I like the idea of it. I'm just having trouble like, you know, I know you said the thing about like them slowly getting picked off one on one. I don't doesn't really click with me personally. I guess I'm breaking the ice on negativity here.
That's valid. Speaking of breaking the ice.
Ah, perfect. Oh wait, hold on. I gotta play it. I gotta play it.
Do you have to? Oh.
Yes, I have to. All right, so this is one I've been kind of like on the fence about. I've been wanting.
Carry on.
No. One I've been really wanting to talk more about someone familiar with the DC side of things before I like really get invested. No?
Yeah, go on. I didn't expect to be caught with my pants down like this.
I didn't. Odd phrasing, but all right. This is Killer Frost versus Kula Diamond from King of Fighters. And the basic dynamic is that both of them started off as like, you know, these experiments, you know, Killer Frost was like a scientist and, you know, Kula was a test experiment. One from like the Hive, and then from King of Fighters, the Nest Foundation. And they were experimented on, ended up getting cryomantic powers, and then would eventually escape their, you know, being experiments. And they would later become good guys, and they also have main dynamics with like fire users within their series. You know, Kula Diamond being made at first to like stop K-Dash, but then ended up, you know, befriending him and becoming allies, while Killer Frost, I know she hunted down Firestorm to try to like get his fire matrix that would undo, because like her cryomancy is more like a curse because she's exposed to like hydraulic fluid and she's kind of like a heat vampire.
She is specifically a heat vampire.
Yeah, and a lot of her cold is just a lot of the cold like is just her like accidentally freezing things as she sucks the heat around and like that. And I know she later becomes a good guy under the alias of like Caitlin Snow, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Does she have like a Todoroki style weakness where if like she doesn't have heat near her, like she gets like colder and colder if she's like a heat vampire? Like does she need heat to
she's weak to like antifreeze.
Oh.
Wait, she's an ice user that's weak to ice?
Antifreeze.
Oh, antifreeze.
Also, which Which Killer Frost? This is not the second version, which is Sol will remember. Oh, it's not Louise Lincoln. It's because Louise is the second one who appears after Crystal is seemingly killed by Firestorm.
Oh, I didn't realize there were two. Okay, yeah, this is
Yeah. So Louise is the second one who becomes and basically repeats the experiment to become the new Killer Frost.
All right, so was I right with like the original like coming back as a hero, or
I believe so. Killer Frost is a bloodline spot.
oh, got it. Sherm, do you have a Killer Frost insight on us, or
No. This matchup seems
Damn.
cool, though.
Hey.
don't make me play it again?
I think...
No, yeah, she does join the Justice League of America as Frost.
All right, yeah, like
it's during the New 52 reboot.
Got it. But yeah, I really like this one just because like I really like Kula and I really wanted to find like a good dynamic with her. At one point I considered like Frost from Mortal Kombat, but like I don't really
That
care.
doesn't sound good.
Yeah, exactly. So like plus like Kula actually does have a few cool feats that might be able to scale with like DC cosmology. Like I know at one point in the games she survives re-entry from the Earth from falling from a space satellite.
That's fun.
So she has some hella durability.
I remember Killer Frost. She has. Oh, I forget what she has. She's able to She was able to cover I think a sizable. I think she was able to freeze an entire city at one point.
Oh yeah. That's pretty impressive. I know, like in the games, Kula Diamond, when she enters in on the stage, she completely freezes the stage over. But I don't think she's ever frozen an entire city before. So, interesting dynamic of like AP versus durability. Honestly, like I'm starting to vibe with this. Still want to get a little more on Killer Frost before I go all in. But like, yeah. Thanks for the discussion. I'm glad I got some insight from y'all.
I don't think anyone really talks about Killer Frost much, and King of Fighters hasn't been talked about a lot either. So I think this would be a really cool way to cover both of those. I'm down.
This is me. The news that I made. So this has been an obsession for me for a while. This is Hiromi Higuruma from Jujutsu Kaisen. Funny enough, another Jujutsu game. Versus Sans Undertale himself. So the idea is that these are generally relaxed, hyper-intelligent, apathetic male characters who act as spiritual judges, There's a lot to go in with the thematics if you want to look even deeper with it. Like both of them being kind of nihilistic in a way, since Hiromi, like, he loses all faith in the justice system because it's all corrupted and becomes bitter towards his own life, while Sans thinks that like his life is pointless due to how the timelines work, right? I just think it's really cool. I really like this. The initial fight dynamic with her so Hiromi, his main curse technique is being able to use his like gavel. Am I using the right word?
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe that's his technique, or it might be his domain. But his gavel is his curse tool, sorry. And his gavel can shapeshift. So he can make it like really large or really long. Which I think could play off of Sans really well. Like, if Sans uses a blaster, he could throw the gavel and make it big into like a shield to try and make it continue to force itself forward to try and crush Sans, right?
Yeah.
You could have him like throw the gavel at Sans teleport, and as soon as the gavel hits the wall, it bounces back towards Sans, only for Sans to use his telekinesis to throw the gavel back.
I don't know if this
Yes.
would like necessarily work or make sense to the domain, but I kind of like the idea of like.
I haven't talked about the domain yet for a minute.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
So, for those who don't know, because he is still a relatively new character, his domain is called Deadly Sentencing. So basically, it manifests a courtroom around an individual with guillotines, and he and his opponent are placed on podiums. You have to follow the rules. So while you're inside, you cannot kill anyone. So you cannot fight, you cannot hit anyone. You just got to listen to what happens. Judgman is again is a part of his curse technique, which conjures a Shikiyami with a black body that has a scale. It can think, it can act independently, and basically it has a bunch of like sentencing abilities. So depending on what you are guilty of, you can get sentenced to confiscation, which takes away your curse technique. Or I think is it the energy? Shigeyami, yeah. I'm just bad at pronouncing stuff. Which I think is really... Could Sans just teleport out this theoretically? Maybe, but I don't think it would get him out of the sentencing, you know?
All right, here's my question, because as someone who's not too far into like Jujutsu K manga,
can I just finish talking about the sentencing?
Yeah,
stuff?
sorry, I didn't mean to.
Because there's one last part of it. So the sentencing takes away your cursed energy, which I think is really cool for Sans because of Soul is literally magic stuff, right? And then if you get the death penalty, he gets the Executioner Sword, which is really funny for this dynamic because the Executioner Sword is made to one shot. Which against Sans, who can already be one shot.
That is pretty funny.
And also, someone asked a really good question. How guilty is Sans? Sans, by his own remission, feels guilt over not doing anything about the genocide route, right? The inaction of being able to, he didn't stop the genocide route when he could, right? He waits till the very end. So he technically has thousands, if not a universal amount of murders on his hand, depending on the timelines, right? Which would instantly get him the death penalty. And the judgment knows all as well and can give him evidence.
I don't know how. I think it'd be interesting if like because the idea would be like Sans would actively argue to save his life, like even if he's like pretty chillax, he would like defend himself, or else this doesn't work. I think it'd be fun if like for one of the arguments he's like, "Hey man, we were at war, so I had to try to get the souls to get to the surface," and then he's like, "According to the Geneva Conventions, you can't go after kids during wartime, so that's still on you or something."
Like, I think this is so cool for a dynamic.
I definitely like it. It really does depend on like how comparable you can compare like soul magic to like cursed energy on, whether they're the same thing.
I don't see why not. They are both very, very, very similar systems, you know?
Those...
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Sherm.
No, you go.
I was just gonna say, like very similar, although like cursed energy is very distinct because like it allows you to like see cursed beings and whatnot. So like I don't know if it's reasonable to assume that every Undertale monster with like souls and with that kind of stuff would just be able to be comparable to that. But like I could definitely see the argument at the very least, just to see how it would interact with each other. Like I could see it work. We just have to just have to be how we interpret it.
Let me and Jabba cook. That's all I gotta say on this one.
Does the gavel need to hit the gavel pad for things to happen?
I don't believe so.
Because I was like thinking, what if like Sanchez uses telekinesis to stop the gavel before it hits anything? I think that'd be funny. I don't know if that works because it has a lot of rules, but I think it'd be funny if he tried.
Also, by the way, I forgot to also mention it doesn't just have to be a gavel. It can go into a hook or a staff as well. Basically, he can shapeshift into whatever he wants, which I think is really cool for a dynamic, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine Sans does his, like, final attack thing where he does, all the bunch of Gaster Blasters, right? Mm-hmm. And he just starts bouncing his gavel between all of them.
Ooh, that's fun.
Oh, I love this idea. Whoever submitted this, thank you. This is awesome.
This was me.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Reagan Ripley versus Stanford Pines. I like it. I like Inside Job. I wish it didn't get canceled. This is probably my favorite idea to cover like the grounded side of Gravity Falls. I think it'd just be very cool to compare all their sciencey stuff and all their conspiracy stuff. I feel like it's not a super complex matchup. This is just something I've been thinking about. I'm like, you know what? This is pretty great. I'd say like I guess that's like my big thing is like I was looking at Gravity Falls characters, and aside from Bill Cipher, which has a ton of matchups I like, between like Dipper, Grunkle Stan, all those characters, like this is the one that's like I think Reagan Ripley and all their tech and all their like conspiracy stuff would be the most interesting to compare to something like Gravity Falls, because I feel like Gravity Falls would be something that they probably would have their fingers in if they were in the same universe, and I think it'd just be a cool way to look at all the lower scale Gravity Falls stuff. I think Stan's probably the best character to include for the low end of Gravity Falls. Yeah, Stanford, sorry.
Stanford. Yeah, you gotta make that clear. Otherwise people will yell at you.
Yeah.
I have kind of one issue with this thematically.
Yeah.
Who's the Stan comparison? Ford and Stan's relationship is literally the pivotal thing of Ford's, everything that Stanford goes through, right?
That's fair, yeah.
I mean,
like, does it have a comparison?
Could you compare Stan to like her relationship with her father and how her father kind of like put her down the path where she's going?
Maybe. I also just think it'd be really cool just for us as like writers, if we did this, to brainstorm what would the fucking D-Infinity roll thing that Ford has. Like, imagine he would get knocked out of his cloak, midway through the fight and start rolling. I think we could do something really funny.
Yeah, that would be fun.
133 unread emails. Shame.
Oh my god.
Clear them.
The infinity-sided die would be a perfect thing to bring in just to spice up a fight dynamic. That sold me on this alone, but everything else is also pretty good. I like.
Yeah, I still think this is a cool idea. I just have that one thematic thing that
I guess like the thing that I don't think there's like a clean, direct like character comparison between them. But I think analysis-wise, we get to like talk about how specific aspects of their childhood and growing up push them into like the lonely scientific adult lives they lead. It's not like super similar, but it's still like there's a parallel if you zoom out a bit.
Yeah, no, I got it.
All right.
Yeah. Doesn't perfectly line up, but I think it's close enough to make it work. All right. This is one I want to talk about just because I've heard people love it, I heard people hate it, and I just want to understand either side coming from, because like on the paper it sounds good. Okay, so this is Eren Yeager from Attack on Titan versus Edelgard from Fire Emblem Three Houses. Spoilers for both shows, by the way. So the basic idea for this one is like both of them start out as young, optimistic, kind of like, members of their nations, and Eren Yeager wants the aspirations of like, seeing the ocean one day and getting out of the walls, and Edelgard, just wants she's like the high nobleman of like her home country. Gosh, the name is drawing a blank on me right now. But anyway, when they were young, they were subjected to like experiments that gave them a very powerful power at the cost of like shortening their life. Eren with being injected and becoming like a Titan shifter, and Edelgard being forcibly given the Crest of Flames, which a crest is like a magical birthright, gives you like special abilities, access to use one of the legendary artifacts, which is like made out of the bones of God. Long story. But she was basically kidnapped by this organization and forcibly implanted this. And as they kind of grow up, they start to see the cracks in like the society. Eren Yeager becomes aware of like the other nation trying to destroy his homeland and wanting to end the war, and Edelgard sees the flaws of like the Church of Siguros and how that is kind of like oppressing the people of like Fodland. And so they take a heel turn from being like portrayed as like young heroes into becoming basically like these villainous dictator. Well, Eren not really a dictator, but just taking a face heel turn into villainly, with Eren Yeager basically going off the deep end, going like scorched earth, wanting to destroy everything, and that's the rumbling to like basically level the entire world just to protect his home, and Edelgard basically amassing her army, taking down the church, and wanting to conquer everyone just to like tear down the corrupt system and taking it back. And the fight dynamic is also pretty good because like Edelgard obviously has her axe. You can use any kind of weapon or magic from the game just because of how you can customize units. Eren Yeager has the swords, and depending on the timeline, Edelgard actually corrupts herself into like a larger monstrous forms, which would be a neat way to like escalate it versus Eren and his Titan powers.
There's a lot of Edelgard matchups out there, but this one makes sense.
Yeah, I don't have much to say because I don't really know both, but yeah.
I think anything I would have said you kind of covered, so I'm just like, yeah, it makes sense. I can see why this would be on the.
Yeah, I kind of get it.
Chopping block. Chopping block's the wrong word, on the table.
Yeah, like I like it. It's just some people say it's the best thing ever. Some people say, oh, this is terrible, and I'm just trying to feel like it just seems all right. Like I don't know what makes it like the go and what people see it as like terrible.
Oh, okay, this is one of mine. So this is Malware from Ben 10. This is Parasite from DC. So for people who don't know, Parasite is a individual who got turned into. He got exposed by dangerous substances and turned into, well, a parasite. So he is a Superman villain, but he doesn't actually fight high scale. He fights through draining the life force of others around him and increasing his physical abilities, and can also absorb the abilities of super mutants into themselves. I really like this thematically because it goes into Malware's motivation quite well, which I find a lot of Malware's matchups, especially his most popular, Sin from Murder Drones, do not. Basically, Malware's whole thing is that he was born as an incomplete and corrupt galvanic mechamorph, which is a species Azimuth created on the moon of Galvin. Azimuth was like, yo, twin, don't worry, I'm going to kill you. And then he didn't. And then he didn't, and then he didn't for years and years and years and years and years and years, to when Malware went, fuck this, I'm going to take Azimuth myself and make him fix me, right? Parasite actually has very similar emotional resentment towards both the Stars Laboratories workers and Superman, because he entirely views his like issues as an individual becoming this parasite on Superman, because Superman is so smart, he's so strong. If he wanted to kill Parasite, why hasn't he? Because that's all that Parasite wants at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
the fight dynamic here is amazing, in my opinion. Parasite and Malware have a bunch of different evolutionary forms, which they get and change through technological absorption or more, I guess, life force draining, right?
Mhm.
So the Malware form that you are seeing on the screen right now is his third form. His fourth form is the size of like a giant skyscraper. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Malware, no Malware. Parasite has a bunch of different forms as well, and he also has a bunch of different powers.
Mhm.
So, basically, his Parasite's main absorption works is he starts absorbing within a 20-foot radius, but the more potent within like closer proximity or touching, and he retains the absorption that like he basically any powers that he's absorbed he still has, right?
Mm.
And he can choose when and not to use them at any time. What I would really like here is if Parasite goes to try and absorb Malware, but gets kind of blown back by the corrupted nature of the galvanic mechamorph.
Mm.
And Parasite is almost so disgusted he doesn't want to do it.
Oh.
So, Malware's main thing is technological absorption. It's what galvanic mechamorphs are meant to evolve and adapt technology, right? They can turn, I think Ben in the classic series turns a cotton candy machine into like a gun that
Yeah.
fires cotton candy at people. Malware's entire thing is that he can absorb technology into himself and corrupt it. He has a weapon on him called the Tekadon Cannon, which has a crazy statement of being able to like destroy DNA, like similar DNA up to like 5 miles.
Mhm.
He can stretch and morph his body in different ways, stretch his arms, stretch his limbs. He has other weapons like the Proto Tool as well, which gives him more blasters, grappling hooks if he wants to, which he hasn't really used, so I won't really count it. Parasite has multiple different individuals' abilities. So he has absorbed Firestorm, which gives him fire stuff, you know?
Yeah.
He has been able to seal cops in plastic and then create nuclear explosions around them.
Mm.
He has raised his shield and then break it down into shards. He has, funny enough, he has absorbed Killer Frost.
Huh.
Ooh, topical.
Yeah, so he can freeze people on contact with it. He has actually absorbed Superman, but he just kind of uses his heat vision. He
Which is
has
cool.
absorbed Martian Manhunter, but also everything he absorbs, he gains the weakness to as well.
So would we be
So,
using would we be using Parasite with like every single thing he's ever absorbed?
he retains them.
Wait, so does that mean Parasite is weak to antifreeze?
I guess. We've
So-
never really considered it.
So is Parasite basically like a Mazo?
Kind of. I mean, he's always more copy, and this is absorbing.
I know that debate doesn't matter sometimes, but if he has like all these like super OP abilities, doesn't he just kind of like easily win?
Malware. Oh, God. Sorry. Malware is an insane individual in Ben 10. He survives the center of the moon exploding. He also is capable of regenerating from the Tekadon cannon blast, which should have destroyed him on a cellular. Oh no, it doesn't work because he's a incomplete mechamorph. But basically, he can regenerate.
All right. Okay.
All right.
He
Honestly,
was also.
oh, go ahead.
No,
Sorry,
you
didn't
go
mean
on.
to interrupt.
No, you go on. It's okay.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, it sounds like a lot of this stuff, like, it kind of has like the same kind of like, at least like with the thematics, not necessarily the dynamic, but like the idea of like absorbing gives me the same kind of like vibes of like Cell versus Diaboromon. So like I am really interested in like seeing these two interact, because like that's just always been a fun dynamic of like, you know, having these characters evolve, and especially if they start absorbing each other's powers during it, like
Yeah.
you could do a lot of cool stuff with that.
Like I imagine Parasite doing the whole grab and touch would allow him to absorb Malware's galvanic mechamorph physiology, right? But as soon as he does that, Malware can mess with him and absorb him. Also, we can talk about the time he turned into Lois Lane and had sex with Lex Luthor.
That is
Parasite.
a flex.
Parasite has canonically cracked Lex Luthor.
This matchup,
I don't think I ever needed to know that.
I have several questions about this matchup, but they're in depth and would take us far outside of the time frame of what we're trying to do here today. But definitely seems like it's a very cool option. No, they would all be like 10, 15, 20-minute questions.
It's like those math problems you get assigned where it's like, oh, yeah, you only get 2 homework questions, but each is like 26 parts long.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you say everything you wanted to say?
Yeah, we can move on.
Okay.
All right.
So,
oh my gosh.
This is Shuma-Gorath from Marvel versus SCP-3125, the Cosmic Starfish. This is from the story, there is no anti-memetics division. I think this is just really 3125 is just like a fascinating, super cool character, and I would just be looking into what like the best matchup for it would be. I think Shuma-Gorath is a pretty solid, cool option because one of 3125's biggest thing is that once you comprehend what it is, it kind of replaces it. It inserts its concept on reality where its concept didn't exist before. So, Infinite Bread said it's sorrow versus when day breaks. Not quite, but I appreciate the enthusiasm. That's another good one. This idea is basically like Shuma-Gorath also, if you defeat Shuma-Gorath, you become Shuma-Gorath. And if you comprehend 3125, you kind of become 3125. And both are very like psychedelic, cosmological, absurdly powerful entities. So I kind of like this idea of like they warp reality to become them, and when that happens, which one becomes the truth and which one becomes something that was overwritten. And I think that is fundamentally very, very interesting.
I feel like the artists and the animators you could get really creative, like the animation and the art direction for this one, just to portray visually like them trying to overwrite each other.
Yeah, I think it's definitely cool. I wish Shuma-Gorath wasn't in so many rights issues. It'd be super fun to see more of him. But speaking of SCP-3125, I also want to talk about SCP-3125 versus Godzilla Ultima. I think this matchup is just another one I see a lot for 3125, and I think I kind of wanted to wonder if you guys had any thoughts on this one, because I've seen it tossed around a lot as being considered an option.
Not really, I'll be honest. I don't really have any interest in covering Godzilla, and especially Ultima.
Fair enough. I guess like the big thing is that. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I asked you a question and I didn't let you answer.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna say much. Just I like Ultima. Like after Hulk versus Godzilla, I definitely would love to see him again. I just don't know too much about these ones, so I can't really say much on like the actual debate of like whether I prefer this or like Shimigura more. But definitely sounds cool. Like I'd be down for it.
I think the thing with Godzilla Ultima, or I think Hulk versus Godzilla was a very, very good death battle, but that was like composite Godzilla. I think like it would be interesting to like, and so Godzilla Ultima didn't really have like the spot. Well, it did in the debate, but in like the analysis, it was just kind of shoved in with all the other Godzillas. I think we were talking about potentially like if we were to do like an Ultima, we would feature like it would be like Ultima as like exclusively just kind of like as a way to really dive into like its story, what all its meaning is and all that. And from what I've heard, 3125 is specifically a pretty interesting thematic comparison to Ultima. So that's why I think like it was considered and when I say cassette, I don't mean like we were thinking about putting the show. I was more just talking about when we were talking about its potential. So yeah, I just think 3125 is a really cool SCP story. One of people told it as one of the better ones for a good reason, and I'm always
Fair
looking
enough.
for like what'd be a good way to cover it.
All right. This is one that has been getting a traction in the Discord recently. Well, like, you know, we were doing the oh gosh, that poll tournament thing just for funsies, and this is like one of the ones that I think this one won its round. This is Mephiles from Sonic the Hedgehog versus Vanitas from Kingdom Hearts. The basic connection is that they are kind of like dark entities that, while not direct clones, definitely take their appearance based on like another existing character. Mephiles, you know, basing his appearance off Shadow the Hedgehog, and Vanitas, you know, being like Ventus's dark side, but for some reason taking on Sora's appearance, even though Ventus hadn't met Sora yet in that timeline, but that's a tangent that's way too long for the scope of this video. And yeah, so once these two just kind of do their own thing, they're very simple characters. They're just kind of like dark entities that just kind of like want to bring about chaos and destruction just because, you know, they're made of darkness. That's what they do. You know, Vanitas wants to reunite with Ventus in order to forge the Keyblade and just, you know, take Kingdom Hearts and rewrite the world, while Mephiles wants to reignite with his other half, being Ignis and Iblis, recreating Solaris to, you know, recreate the universe. I think you could have a lot of fun with this one. Definitely makes sense for both, especially if, like, you know, Mephiles' powers with like the darkness and like fire, especially clashing with like Keyblade and like the acrobatics with Vanitas.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah. Like, I don't really have too much to say on it, just because it's like, you know, I'm not really too familiar with like the Mephiles side of things since I haven't really played 06, but like, he's definitely seems like one of the coolest things to come out of that game besides Silver the Hedgehog, and you know, it would be really cool just to feature Vanitas on the show, even if his boss fight was absolute hell.
So I don't know Vanitas super well, so it's hard for me to give any commentary on this one. Um, but if you say it's good, then it's probably good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wish I had more to say. I'm just like I kind of just have to.
No.
I just have to believe you.
No, I get it. Like, I'm kind of like the same boat because like I don't really know too much about Vanitas. Like, this match is living off of its vibes right now, but I'm sure I'm sure it's pretty cool when you look into it.
Plum said something that intrigues me about the matchup, which is that it plays into the theme of what it means to exist, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been wanting to talk about this one.
All right.
Ever since we started, because Invincible has just came back, and Grand Regent Thrag is in everybody's mind as the current antagonist. This is Grand Regent Thrag versus Darth Malgus from Star Wars. The theme of this is, so I'll just read the core theme that I've written down. Brutal, high-ranking warriors belonging to a race of conquerors that share the same belief that might makes right. Despite the majority of their kind sharing their beliefs and high rank, they take it to a whole different level, eventually leaving their empire. Okay, also spoilers, but I'm talking about fucking Thrag here. Leaving their empires and starting their own under the belief of the rest of the Sith/Viltrumites have gone soft. And then there's a cool contrast between, while Malgus is rebels to change the Sith old ways, Thrag rebels because Viltrumites are changing too much from their old ways. So, I know you said no sword fight. So, actually, I really like this because I don't think Malgus is a guy you need to have a sword fight for because he has a lot of different powers that he uses instead. Not only that, I actually think the lightsaber versus Viltrumite dynamic is good, right? The reason that lightsabers can cut through anything, basically anything, is because they're so hot, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
Jim looked at me for he like opened his mouth, I think.
Oh, did it not come through on the mic?
No.
Oh, well, I just said like, oh, I see where you're getting at with this one.
So basically, Viltrumites their main weakness is like intense heat, but they can survive for a very long time. Like they were like Mark was able to survive in the sun. He was fucked up, but he survived, right? So the lightsaber is still a very potent threat here because it gets to about sun temperature, right?
Yeah.
But it can still bounce off of Grand Regent Thrag in a very interesting way.
Oh, so it's not an instant kill.
It's not an instant kill, but it's still a major threat.
Interesting.
Malgus is also one of the main techniques he uses is force amplification. So he amplifies his strength and speed using the force. Does it mean that he's going to be able to bust through planets or anything? No, but that's not the way Thrag fights, right? That's not the way most Viltrumites fight. Even though they have planet level AP, they are still able to, throw each other through buildings and stuff. And Malgus is actually of a comparable strength while using his force stuff, right? So I imagine he would charge at Malgus. Malgus would sidestep, backhand Thrag, send him flying, and Thrag would be like, oh, interesting.
So if we had like Thrag charge him and hit him with like a Superman punch that like shatters the windows of all the buildings around them and like launches Malgus like into the next county, it wouldn't feel weird for Malgus to just like get up for that and be like, I'm fine.
He probably would be hurt, but he should be able to like get back up and keep fighting, right?
Okay. So for the fight dynamic, would we try to like have him take like not a ton of hits? Maybe, I don't know. I don't know.
No. You would. I maybe not a ton, but also I don't think Thrag should be taking a lot of lightsaber hits, right?
Okay.
There's also other cool stuff that you can do here, where you can use one of my favorite scenes would be Thrag again, probably towards the end of the fight, full on trying to charge right at Malgus to get the hit that he needs. And Malgus uses his telekinesis to hold Thrag in place. And they're both having a standoff as like the smart Adams begin to try and push further, right?
Oh, that's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly,
oh, go ahead.
I like this Thrag option. Of all Thrag options, this one seems most interesting to me right now.
Yeah, I'm on a similar boat. I am sold for both. Especially like I'm imagining a scene where like Malgus like goes to cut Thrag down, but he just like grips it by the hand and then slow head turn towards Malgus. Like I think that could be a cool scene, and yeah, like the fact that no sword fight can be a downside, but I don't think every Star Wars character needs to have like a direct sword comparison, especially, you don't really need a lightsaber fight for every Star Wars matchup, and this one definitely works without it.
Well, yes, Brett said that my main weakness is heat, but I can take the heat for the long time. Well, yeah, Thrag in Invincible, again, spoilers, dies after being plunged into the sun by Mark during their final conflict. Mark is a burned and charred. Basically, the whole thing is that they can't regenerate fast enough, right? Because of how their smart atoms work.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
final thing about what Malgus can do as well. He has Force Lightning and Force Maelstroms.
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Also, another thing that I forgot to say that's cool about this last thing. So his amplification increases his speed, right?
Mm-hmm.
One time, Malgus was in a fight with Jedis, and he spun his lightsaber so fast it created a shield.
Oh, that's cool.
So Malgus, so Thrag could be hitting it with the 1-2 piece up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Malgus gets back on his feet and just starts spinning his lightsaber, General Grievous style, approaching Thrag, as Thrag has to like figure out how to get around it.
That is fun.
Ooh.
Oh.
Who
Yeah,
is this?
All right, this is a mythology matchup, actually. This is Set from Egyptian mythology versus Loki from Norse mythology. The connection for this one is that both of them are... in mythology, there's always that, like, one guy that, like, most myths typically cite them as, like, being the villain. The one's basically, like, causing shit and like stirring the pot around the pantheon. And these are like that guys from their respective mythologies. Set being like the god of mischief and murder, and Loki just being like the typical trickster god. They both also have some other interesting connections, being that they are the uncles of their respective like most famous stories. Protagonists. Loki being Thor's uncle. No, Marvel. They are not brothers. They and Set being like the uncle of Horus. And both of them are one of their most iconic myths is about them killing a very beloved god from their mythology. Loki just orchestrating the death of Balder, god of light, and Set being the one who cuts up Osiris in order to take the throne and become pharaoh of Egypt. And yeah, I just really like this matchup thematically. I think there's some cool stuff. Set, even though like he only has like the one main myth, there are like the way Egyptian mythology works is that it kind of goes on like a repeating cycle. So while it's like the same events, they kind of happen differently, and they're all kind of accepted as like different versions of like this repeating cycle. So there are like iterations where like he battles Horus, with like sun powers, and like, he has some like cool stuff with sand. At one point they settle their difference in an Ace Attorney style lawyer match. Like they just have like a court instead of like duking it out, and I think that's funny. And Loki, he's Loki. You got the trickster stuff, shape shifting, just overall being a mischievous little bastard.
I think an opportunity to analyze Egyptian mythology would be extremely cool. So I'm already like geared to be very interested in this matchup. And this specific pairing for an Egyptian mythology analysis seems to make a lot of sense to me.
I don't know much to say.
No, I hear ya. The one thing I just want to note is that for the mythology matchups, I like taking like art from like original mythologies or like, early depictions. All of Set depictions are like the hieroglyphs or the statue, which like could not fit neatly on there without just like posting an image of a real life statue. So I use the art from like Smite's rendition.
We'll just do what Death Battle did and use their live action versions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe don't. Okay. So this is Vecna from Stranger Things versus the Thin Man from Little Nightmares. I love Little Nightmares. And I enjoy Stranger Things. I haven't seen the recent season because all the episodes are like an hour 30 long, and Prime doesn't pay me enough to sit around to do that stuff. No, I get it. So the idea of this is naturally imposing uncanny and transform supernatural beings that reign control over an entire / specific part of a realm whom they hold the most influence in. So I really like this because the thematics are great. It covers them being like ordinary children who get influenced by higher supernatural forces and develop their powers thanks to it, comparing like the Mind Flayer and the Signal Tower. You have this is so cool. So basically they are both kind of telepaths and like telekinesis stuff in a way. It's hard to explain. So basically, Vecna. Also, by the way, this isn't D&D Vecna.
Yes, it's Stranger Things Vecna.
Some people get confused sometimes.
Yeah.
But basically, Stranger Things Vecna is capable of lifting people up, snapping their limbs, throwing people around. He can, basically, the more emotional he gets, he becomes more powerful. He is able to create illusions, which is usually manifested in an old clock, which signals he is coming. He's able to regenerate like parts of him. He is able to send victims into his mindscape or into the mindscape of others. He is able to inflict Vecna's curse, which is able to give people like headaches, unable to sleep, nightmares, hallucinations. The thin man. I almost said the tall man, but that's
It's a
something
different
else.
one.
That's also a really cool one, to be fair.
Yeah.
The I like this. Loki just in it for the Demogorgons. If they didn't show up for the final battle, they're not here. The thin battle is able to regenerate. He is able to erase people with enough damage. Basically, he's able to like stick his hand out and reality kind of warps, and then there's like damage. Think like Markima's Bang, weirdly, but it's through like telekinesis instead, right?
Yeah.
He is able to remove the souls of individuals, slow down time, BFR people to his signal tower. He can seal people within TVs. He can capture victims and like leave only their void behind, which is crazy. He's able to travel in time, which is a weird. Little Nightmares 2 is technically a time loop. He is able to warp space and time. The space thing is kind of like a side effect of his like bang blasts, right?
Yeah.
Basically, as he's harnessing, like the buildings around him like contort and then flip back. This is just one of my favorite. I want to do this for the show. I love Little Nightmares. I still like Stranger Things. What I've heard about the last season is so sad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just
It's
want
always
to
a
ask.
shame when like. Oh,
Yeah,
I was.
I just want to ask some quick
Go ahead.
questions. How big is Tall Man? Because I know size in Little Nightmares is weird. Would we just say he's the same size as a human? Is he like canonically
he's
massive?
one of the. He is canonically the size of the humans in Little Nightmares.
So are the protagonists just really small, or is that just
Yes,
like
yes.
abstract?
The,
Okay.
The protagonists are really small, but he isn't.
This would be an awesome way to cover Little Nightmares. I think that'd be a great little indie series to cover. So I'm super down.
Oh yeah. I'm also down with this one. Not really familiar with both, but definitely sounds like a cool episode. I'd love to see what you do with it.
Yeah, it would be one that I would like. If we're talking about episodes in terms of aesthetic, that's one of them. Oh, Talion.
All right, Zero, take us
my
away.
final matchup. All right, so this one has been like this one has had a grip on my brain for forever now. This is Talion from Lord of the Rings, specifically the Shadow of Mordor games, versus that. Oh gosh, I always get the two mixed up. This one's Vax. Yes, this is Vax from Critical Role Campaign 1, and the connections for these ones is that both of them are kind of like. They are both beings that are kind of like who have kind of like cheated death after like witnessing a tragedy that kind of destroyed kind of like their home and threatened their family. Talion witnessed the murder of his family and daughter, and then was subsequently killed from like the orc armies of the Black Hand. Talion not only witnessed his mother die, but also saw his twin sister meet an untimely death while exploring the tomb of the Shadow of the Raven Queen. Made a deal with her in order to save her using his soul instead. And both kind of like be bound by these supernatural beings to basically kind of like continue living, and both are kind of like fed off of revenge. Talion obviously wanting to get revenge on the Black Hand, and Talion wanting to get revenge on the dragon who killed his mother, and then eventually is inscripted by the Raven Queen to track down Vecna, the D&D Vecna, not the Stranger Things Vecna, and basically bring balance to it. I really like this matchup, not only for like the thematic connections, but also the dynamic would be pretty cool because, spoilers for the Shadow Mordor games, at later stages of like the second game, Talion gets, kind of goes. Should I not? Or
No, it just makes me sad. Talion's shit in the second game makes me so sad.
Yeah, like he gets dealt a really bad hand and basically is getting pressure to pressured to like become a ring wraith, and he does his best to fight back, especially getting the powers to resurrect the dead and call upon spirits and resurrect his own orcs' undead army, which would definitely set up for the fight, since Talion's whole thing is serving the Raven Queen, who wants to keep the balance of life and death, and resurrecting people of undeath and undead armies is a big no-no.
So, a few things. I'm assuming we wouldn't give Talion Calibrimbo.
I not necessarily, but like a lot of his abilities kind of carry over once he kind of switches over to like Shabab, so it should be fine.
I just remember in the final fight, it was the second game, Calibrimbo starts fighting like a stand.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. Oh, the thing about the ring wraith thing is so funny, because they appear throughout the game and they're like, bro, you're gonna join us? No. Bro, you're gonna join us? No. Bro, you're gonna join us? No. And then after 40 years, finally Talion said yes.
Yeah, like they kind of wore down on his sanity, and that's another cool thing about like the thematic dynamics is like this impending doom, because like Talion tries his best to escape his fate, but ultimately succumbs and becomes a ring wraith, while Vax, eventually the Raven Queen is, he died. He offered up his soul. Eventually he's going to have to like become her champion and basically get whisked away to death to do her service. And he cheated as long as he could, but at the end of the campaign he just kind of gets picked up and taken away. And another cool thing about the fight dynamic is just both of them kind of lean into like stealth, with Talion being a rogue, and I mean Vax being a rogue and Talion just having like the stealth mechanic. So there could be some really cool things in the fight where like we're in one of like the keeps in Shadow Mordor to play into like some of the stealth things of having them sneak up on each other would be a really cool fight dynamic to explore.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
Yeah.
Something came up, so we gotta skedaddle. But thank you all so much for watching. This has been super fun. Just a little way to keep y'all. We didn't want to leave you with no content. Super vs. Cosma coming out April 10th. Please get excited about that. We're all super excited. And hey, tune in next time for the cast. Join the Discord. Post some matchups. We'll talk about in the next one. And with that, we'll see.